tributes, welcome to Hunger Games Chronicles. It's a continuation to Christian Blanco's Tales of the Hunger Games series, although it's not official. If you want the official version, you should go check out Panem Reborn. You should also check out It's Robo's Hunger Games After 100, as well as Tales of Panem, because the stories they have written are truly wonderful. The art in this video, basically all the art except the arena, goes to the fabulous Andrew McLean. The arena picture was taken in Oregon, if anyone wants to know. Thank you for visiting my channel, and may the odds be ever in your favor. The 101st Hunger Games took place in the year 123. I have recently become acquainted with Christian Snow, one of the descendants of Coriolanus Snow II, a general during the First Era, during which the first to 100 Hunger Games took place. Christian Snow is a scholar who has uncovered the files of the First Era, which were destroyed during the fire of a museum set up to protect the files. Although the era ended 100 years ago, my grandfather was alive at the time and living in Panem. Because of this, my grandfather has memories, files, video recordings, and photos which have been necessary in recounting the events that took place in Panem over the course of the many years following the end of the 100 Hunger Games. Of course, my father was alive during the later games, and I too have many memories of the game. It is from the memories of 3 generations of men that recounting the events of the Second Era has been possible. Reader, may the odds be ever in your favor. The 100 games saw Baffin Herrick's, Olive Branks, and Thibaut Girardot's abduction from the arena by a European alliance, whilst Magnus Plint, Ned Charles, and Tritica MacDonald were rescued by the capital. This proved President Salazar Gall's inability to govern Panem further, and he was subsequently overthrown. A peacekeeper informant known as Neris Cardew was nominated for the role of president, and during the elections, he charmed the voters with his dazzling smile and his logical and swift way of thinking. Cardew was announced as the new president of Panem, and he set forth the procedures for the 101st Hunger Games. As Christian Snow has stated, these games took place in 113. However, these games were not well received by capital citizens due to a variety of reasons. Due to lack of resources, the games took place in an abandoned wasteland, and on the second day, the game makers lost control of a lion mutation and it killed all the remaining tributes. This enraged capital citizens and caused riots throughout the city, which unfortunately nearly caused the death of Ruby S. Dalton. Christian Snow has only mentioned these games which were understandably terribly received by capital citizens. It is I, however, who has the records of the real 101st games, which took place in the year 123. The humiliation of the games of 113 was too much for the capital, and the riots continued. Neris Cardew, with the knowledge that Panem could not withstand another rebellion, signed the Panem Pact, which declared that the Hunger Games would be abolished and never take place again. A treaty known as the Second Panem Pact was signed with the Welsh Prime Minister, Whitford Gettings, which declared that due to the First Panem Pact, the European powers would leave Panem alone for 10 years. After 9 years, in the year 122, Neris Cardew attempted to restart the Hunger Games. Although as he was conducting the reaping in District 10, European rebels learnt of what he had done and ordered an attack on the president. Cardew fled back to Cardew Manor and tried to escape. Although his hovercraft unfortunately ran out of battery and Cardew was attacked by the European rebels. They dragged Cardew to Snow Square and fired a single bullet at his heart, which caused him to fall. The rebels grabbed Cardew and abducted him, before taking him to the Indian dynasty, where he had to sleep on hot coals for a few nights before spending the rest of his life in custody. Back in Panem, a new president was needed. Neris Cardew's son, Marcus, suggested that a new president could be brought from the districts. This idea was met with more riots, as the capital citizens did not want the district savages in power. However, in the late months of 122, a young man in his late 20s named Rickles Snow, who happens to be the nephew of Coriolanus Snow II, graduated with high honors from the Distinguished Academy and became successful in the field of mutation development. Snow ran for president and easily won with 93% of the votes. Snow's first act as president was to reinstate the Hunger Games in January of 123. This enraged the European powers, and although they threatened to launch missiles towards Snow Manor, President Snow refused to be intimidated. despite being only 18, and instead launched a hovercraft towards Wales, which contained zombie mutations. These mutations attacked many residents of Wales, and the Welsh Prime Minister dropped his threats. One of Christian Snow's mistakes has been about District 12, which was captured by the rebels. However, during the February of 123, Christian Snow's second cousin Rickald Snow ordered a march on District 12. The campaign succeeded and District 12 was annexed and began producing medicine and coal again. It was after this that President Snow announced the 101st Hunger Games would be taking place in July, and he named Elias Friend as the head game maker, whilst Rubius Dalton and a former game maker, Priscilla Price, took on the role as announcer due to Eugenia Ravensell's peaceful demise in 121. Magnus Plint was allowed to oversee the reaping games of District 2, in which volunteers ripped off bracelets from their other opponents' necks and wrists. Since it had been unused since 112, the arena had fallen into disrepair, with really anything inside apart from the mud. As the many volunteers were placed into the arena by hovercraft, most of whom had belonged to the Dalton elite, whose classes were still running, the crowd cheered. Magnus entered the arena to give advice to some of the volunteers, yet this was not allowed and Mayor Dalton had to get him to leave. Magnus grunted in annoyance and left, whilst muttering about how muddy his expensive shoes were now getting. The reaping games, which lasted for 50 minutes, was a rather fun affair. Icarus Dalton, aged 18, the youngest child of the now deceased Ennius Dalton, victor of the 76 Hunger Games, was known as an extremely determined and resourceful student of the Dalton elite, who was also known for his cunning nature and ability to charm and manipulate the other students easily. Icarus, who had automatically been given a spot in the training center due to his father being the hero of District 2 and a spot at the Dalton elite at the age of 16, easily defeated 4 opponents during the opening minutes by chasing them down to the crossbeam in the middle of the reaping arena with his friends Brutus and Tiberius Knott, both aged 18. The brothers would climb after their opponent, whilst Icarus would wait at the bottom, where the opponents, unaware that Icarus was waiting there, would jump down to evade Brutus and Tiberius. The trio continued roaming the arena together and chasing tributes, although Icarus was the only one of the trio to have all of his bracelets intact. Towards the end of the games, Icarus snarled at his allies before turning on Tiberius and ripping his bracelets. Icarus attempted to grab Brutus, although he quickly turned and ran. Icarus groaned and instead found Glorious Steel, one of his other opponents. Icarus easily overpowered Glorious, before catching a glimpse of Brutus and Maximus Dalton, a cousin of Icarus. Icarus grinned and sprinted towards them, before punching Maximus as hard as he could. Icarus then noticed Brutus running, and quickly ripped off Maximus's bracelets before pursuing Brutus. He chased Brutus to the crossbeam before slamming his head repeatedly into the steel poles holding the crossbeam up until he finally ripped off Brutus's 2 remaining bracelets. Icarus Dalton was announced as the male tribute for District 2, and Icarus yelled in triumph. As for the girls, 18-year-old Aurelia Bean belonged to a rather poor family of stone miners who lived in the Salt Flats and was subsequently unable to afford a spot in District 2's training academy. However, she still put up an extremely strong fight against her opponents and defeated 2 of them in the initial scuffle. She roamed the arena with her 16-year-old sister, Narcissa, although it was the latter who eliminated the opponents they came into contact with. This greatly annoyed Aurelia and she turned on Narcissa, before ripping all of her bracelets off and eliminating her. Aurelia then roamed the arena and, using some of Narcissa's strategies, eliminated her remaining 2 opponents with a surprising amount of ease. Icarus and Aurelia were flown back to the center of District 2 for the title ceremony, with Icarus's brown afro inlaid with jewels, and Aurelia wearing a white flowing gown, which contrasted with her darker skin tone. Icarus was met with cheers, whilst many of the crowd did not react in any way to Aurelia, although she did not seem to care. During the farewell period, Icarus could be heard telling his mother Aura Jasper that he would try his very best to make his deceased father proud, as well as his 2 sisters, Flavia and Claudia, who were in the capital. Aura told Icarus that as he was a capital-born citizen, he could have all the money he wanted, and he already had a lot of fame due to him being the son of Ennius Dalton. Although Icarus ignored this and said that he wanted to be a victor in the Hunger Games just like his father, Ennius. Icarus then asked his mom if she was going to the capital as soon as he left, and when she said she had to watch her only son compete in the Hunger Games like his father, Icarus asked her if she could bring 2 of his cousins, Pontius and Lana, who both resided in one of District 2's elite villages, to the capital as well. Aura said she would try, and Icarus could be seen smiling as his mother ruffled his brown afro and handed him the golden chains he always wore around his neck. As for Aurelia, her parents were extremely upset to see their daughter go into the games, although Narcissa appeared ready to begin a fight with her. Narcissa yelled at Aurelia that she had a better chance of winning the games. The sisters glared at each other in anger until it was time for Aurelia to go down to the train station. As the pair entered the train, Aurelia frowned and asked Icarus why he had so many golden and silver chains around his neck. Icarus simply shrugged and stated that he had bought them in the capital, which caused Aurelia to ask him if he was from the capital. Icarus nodded and told her that he and his mother had arrived in District 2 as soon as he had turned 5, in order for Icarus to volunteer. Aurelia muttered under her breath and asked Icarus why he wanted to volunteer when he had all the pleasures in the world. Icarus scowled and told her that as his father Aeneas had been from District 2, it was his birthright to move to District 2 and volunteer for the games when he was 18. Aurelia asked him why the capital had to make the districts work extremely hard, which caused Icarus to laugh and tell Aurelia that District 2 was a rich district and only needed to train peacekeepers, which made Aurelia snarl and tell him that she was from the Salt Flats. Icarus smirked and told her that his father had told him all about Salt Flat scum before his death in 111. Aurelia lunged at Icarus and the pair began fighting. Although barely seconds into this conflict, Icarus was tasered in the back. Due to his strength and pain resistance skills, Icarus immediately jumped to his feet the moment he hit the floor, whilst glaring at Rubeus Dalton, who apologetically grinned and told him that he had been aiming for Aurelia. Rubeus told Icarus his father would have been proud of him, before scowling at Aurelia and telling her to not place your filthy salt-flat hands on a Dalton. Rubeus began speaking to Icarus, as if unaware of what had happened. Rubeus suggested that Icarus use his father's reputation in order to get more sponsors and to make the Daltons proud. It is worth noting that at this point in time, Aeneas Dalton's 6 sisters had gone on to start large families, which meant that there were currently 33 members of the Dalton bloodline. Icarus, however, laughed and told Rubeus that as he was a capital citizen, practically the entire population of the capital would be sponsoring him. Aurelia rolled her eyes and told Icarus not to be so cocky, yet he sneered and muttered "salt-flat scum" underneath his breath. As the train pulled up in Snow Station, Icarus appeared pleased by the large number of citizens who had come to greet him, many of whom were his teachers and schoolmates from the distinguished academy he attended. Other citizens wanted to catch a mere glimpse of the handsome, hazel-eyed, muscular son of Aeneas Dalton, and Icarus smiled when he saw his sisters Flavia and Claudia trying to wish him luck. Aurelia had a reasonable amount of male admirers as well, and she confidently stroked her dyed red hair back, before posing for photos with some admirers. She was clearly angry to see that Icarus had more admirers than her, although she composed herself and continued taking photos with her male admirers. The pair were taken to their apartment in the accommodation tower, where the stylist Floris Cardew was already waiting. Icarus glanced at the television to see Spectacle and Emerald, both from One, being announced as their district's tributes. Icarus laughed at Spectacle's name, before asking Rubeus why District 1's adults gave their children such unusual names. Floris observed Icarus for a few seconds, before asking Rubeus why Capital Boy was in the games. Rubeus sighed and explained to Floris what Icarus had done and why. Floris then asked Icarus what he wanted to wear, and without hesitation he said that he wanted to be dressed in a gladiator outfit with a shield, although he wanted the outfit to show most of his upper body, in order to attract even more female admirers. Floris complied with these demands, before asking Aurelia what she wanted to wear. She muttered that she was fine wearing a gladiator outfit as well as Icarus with a shield. As Floris left to work on the outfits, Aurelia marched towards Rubeus and told him that just because Icarus was his cousin, that did not mean he treated him better than Aurelia. Rubeus shrugged and told her he was sorry, but from now on he would try to include her in his discussions with Icarus as well. Icarus told Aurelia that he wanted to start a career alliance with Spectacle and Emerald, as it would be fun to betray them. Rubeus then shook his head and told the pair that they should consider another district, which made Icarus ask him if he meant District 4, which had produced 2 volunteer tributes this year. Rubeus told Icarus the Fours would be dangerous on their own, but they would have to consider an outlying district. As Icarus spat in disgust, Rubeus changed the channel to show the reaping he had recorded in District 12.